Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Great Beyond.
We are so excited to be back and better than ever.
Dude, it's like what they say, absence make the heart grow fonder.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's all the same. And I know you guys have missed us and we have missed you.
I've missed you so much that I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. Well, we are so glad to be back. Andie, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke to everybody on BLB?
Lexie, to be honest, I don't have anything really new that's been going on. I'm in the thick of wedding planning and spoiler alert, Lexie is my maid of honor. So she's been helping me. But other than that, nothing new, all good. No news is good news. So I'm still doing great and super excited for season 4. This is honestly the highlight of my year, basically. So what about you, Lexie? What have you been up to? I feel like you have some fun projects and more exciting news.
Okay, so more exciting is subjective, and we all have got exciting lives. But currently, right now, I'm just kind of working on finishing our second documentary for my production company and just working at my job. And I'm also an adjunct professor, so, educating the future of America, really. So, I take donations and I do have a Venmo.
Raising the next generation. Your kids are in good hands, people. Couldn't think of better hands.
Truly, couldn't think of more firm hands.
Couldn't think of softer hands to be held by.
Well, guys, we are back with another amazing season, and I'm super excited because this season we're going to be interviewing a lot of NDE experiencers. And also, it's going to be very topical and, dare I say, seasonal.
This season is all about exploring the fine line between life and death. And we're starting with a really special episode, perfectly timed for the season, as Lexie mentioned. So, Lexie, please start us off. What did you bring to the table today?
By the time this is gracing your little ear canals, it will be the witching hour on All Hallows Eve. So it will be midnight on Halloween, which means that we are going to be talking about Halloween, All Souls, All Saints Day, and Día de los Muertos.
I'm so excited because if you know me, you know Halloween is my all-time favorite holiday, so I'm so excited to hear what Lexie has to say.
Honestly, people look at you and they say, that chick loves Halloween. And for that, that's actually a good thing. That's a good response.
I take it as a compliment.
As one should. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the roots of Halloween. Halloween has its roots in ancient Celtic and Christian traditions. It originated from the Celtic festival of Samhain, which marked the end of harvest season and the beginning of winter. The Celts believed that on the night of October 31st, the boundary between the living and dead thinned, allowing spirits to roam the earth. They wore costumes and lit bonfires to ward off these evil spirits. As Christianity spread, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day was established to honor saints and martyrs and people in purgatory, with the evening before being known as All Hallows' Eve, eventually shortened to Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved, especially here in America, into a holiday focused on costumes, treats, and community celebrations, blending its ancient roots with more modern traditions. So that's where the roots of Halloween kind of come from. I find it really interesting that on this night of all nights, the veil from the living and the dead is thinned, which means that there is, maybe some room for crossing over of some sorts. What I think is super cool about these traditions is that nowadays, even here, we can see that it's kind of like a blending of cultures, where Christians pulled in a lot of different things from the pagans, and that's why we have the different customs we do now. For example, on All Souls Day and All Saints Day, it's like an honoring and remembering and putting good intention towards the people who have passed on in our lives.
And kind of in a similar tradition to what Lexie talked about and mentioned a few times, for those who might not know, Day of the Dead or Día de los Muertos is celebrated on November 1st, aka the day you're listening, and 2nd. It's a beautiful tradition that honors and remembers those who have passed on. It's a really powerful reminder to stay connected to those we've lost. And the meaning behind Día de los Muertos actually traces back to pre-Hispanic times in Mexico and is deeply rooted in indigenous traditions. The idea is that during these days, the boundaries between our world and the spirit world are thin, almost like a bridge is created between life and death. And if you you've watched Coco or you celebrate Dia de los Muertos, I'm sure these images are like popping up for you. I know they did for me. It's believed that during Dia de los Muertos, our loved ones who have passed come back to visit. People create beautiful altars called ofrendas and fill them with photos, little mementos from the person's life, or things that make the living members of their family think of that person, and also fill them with the deceased's favorite foods, which I would love to look at some ofrendas and see what those favorite foods are, because I bet they were so delicious. And it's a really beautiful idea as seeing death not as a, finite end, but as a kind of continuation of life. Also, in present day, Dia de los Muertos has actually kind of become a pillar of, the traditional Mexican Catholic culture in a way, which Lexie, I know, probably connects well with a lot of what you research for today.
Definitely. When I was doing some research of Day of the Dead, it was kind of surprising, or it was very interesting that, like in the pagan tradition of Samhain and Dia de los Muertos, like even though this is like a Mesoamerican tradition, first brought on the scene by the Aztecs, when the Spanish came over and kind of colonized a lot of Mexico, they brought in their Catholicism. And so this tradition was blended with native tradition, just like the pagans in Ireland, Scotland, and Isle of Man, when the Christians came over there, they blended a lot of the rituals they had into All Saints Day and All Souls Day. What I find really cool is that all of it is kind of like a remembering, and I find it really interesting that each one of them talks about how on the specific ending of harvest, so it's like the lighter days are turning into the darker days, because winter, the literal sun goes down at 4 p.m., especially if you're in the Midwest. But what I find is that there is something to be said about like this time of year and like the thinning of the veil, which I think is super, super cool.
I love that. And I totally agree. I wish we were getting closer to winter here in Texas weather-wise, but seasonally, yes. And it's so interesting that across cultures, across like space and time, like we've talked about in past episodes of past seasons, you find this like connection, this thread. And we've been talking a lot about the veil, how the veil between life and death is kind of lifted during this time of year. And I actually have a story of a near-death experience for you, Lexie, that I would love to get your thoughts on.
I'm scared. I'm scared in a good way. Like I'm scared, like I want to be scared. Like, ooh, tell me.
Yes, it's not spooky, but it is very perfect for today, for the season. I actually read about a man named Mateo who had a near-death experience on Halloween Day back in 2010. So, like Lexie talked about, in some cultures, Halloween is seen as a night when the veil between life and death is at its thinnest, similar to Day of the Dead. And Mateo's experience really gives us a glimpse into what that thin boundary might actually look like. According to Mateo, he was involved in a serious car accident. He wasn't breathing when paramedics reached him, and he believes during that time he actually crossed over into what he describes as a new dimension. He says that he entered a place that was completely white, like a really bright, endless light, and radiated warmth, serenity, and understanding, which sounds really peaceful. He described it as feeling like he was just his soul, no physical body, just the sensation of pure peace. Mateo said he saw a silhouette approaching him, but the figure was too bright to tell who or what it was. He couldn't hear it speak, but he felt it communicate through what he calls telepathy, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with kind of in his mind. The figure conveyed this really strong sense of no, literally just the word no. And Mateo kind of took this as the figure was saying he wasn't happy with Mateo's life. Before he could process that fully in that, dimension he was in, he was pulled right back to his body. He woke up in the hospital after being resuscitated, but he said he could still hear the figure's voice in his head for weeks after the accident. And I think what Mateo's experience shows us, and what Day of the Dead reminds us, is that life is precious and fleeting. It's easy to get caught up in really mundane details of everyday life, but stories like these really urge us to live with intention and gratitude. They remind us that those we've lost are still with us in some way, guiding us or maybe just watching over us. Whether it's through traditions like Dia de los Muertos or through stories like Mateo's, it's clear that death isn't as final as we often think. Lexie, I would love to know your thoughts on this story and how it resonates with you on this day and in this season.
So first off, he has like all the classic signs of like an NDE. So when he was not breathing, he said that he felt like he was in the white light. What I liked about what he said was like the understanding that there is some type of peace and like understanding of like this white light, this serenity. And I'm like, wow, that's like, okay, perhaps he entered what he calls the other dimension, but maybe that's the thin veil that everyone's been talking about. Perhaps it is like the lowering of the boundaries, especially since this happened on Halloween. I also think it's really cool that he saw the silhouette. I know that he didn't explicitly say it was maybe a family member or something, but it brings the point, like perhaps it was someone that like he was paying homage to, or, you know, was around in this facility because of the time frame. And I know that a lot of people who do have NDEs are visited by family members or maybe like given some kind of guidance by them. I also think it's quite cool that when he came back, he still kind of heard that voice. Like it was like impactful. And kind of, I guess, my overarching takeaway, just like you said, is life and death, there is a thin barrier. And I think it's really cool that in different cultures, for example, with Day of the Dead and Halloween and even All Souls Day and All Saints Day, is that we take the time to remember and acknowledge that those people are all around us, whether they're here in the flesh or not. So that's what I kind of took away. I also think it's really interesting that people can have these experiences and come back and still, I don't know, want to share it. I think it's really important and cool that he did share that, because I think it's important that people hear what he has to say. So that's my initial thoughts on it. I know you gave me your sentiments, but is there anything else you want to say on the topic of Mateo?
Not necessarily on Mateo, but on, you know, kind of his experience as a whole. Is I don't think that the science or the research is there yet, but I would love to know, like, is there a correlation between people who have near-death experiences and this time of year? Like, are there more, you know, near-death experiences around, you know, October, kind of early November, when the seasons are changing? You know, obviously we don't want any more accidents or anyone, you know, dying,
Right.
but like, I would just be curious to know, like, because that veil is kind of lifted, you know, which is what we've been talking about this entire episode. Like, are there more people kind of going to the side and coming back, if that makes sense? Obviously not wishing, you know, for anyone to go through that traumatic experience. I'm sure it's a lot, but I would just love to know if there's like the science out there, or, you know, what the research is. I think we're still a few years off from there being like the need for that research, or maybe the demand for that research, I should say. You know, I'm also happy to see more and more people getting interested in the subject, period. So that's kind of my thoughts, is just, you know, what does that veil mean? What does it look like? Can people go back and forth? Like, I'm just really curious about it.
Definitely. And I think what you said was so cool, is because like death is no longer limited to just like psychology and religion. Like there is a scientific element to like how we die / come back. And so I do anticipate like maybe in the future learning a lot more about this topic. It transcends boundaries, time, religion, all of that. Like people have these all the time. I totally agree. And, you know, I wonder if there's any type of study, because there is something going on. And as you guys are listening, you know, we're at the witching hour, we're in Halloween / All Souls Day / Day of the Dead. Like we're right in this peak season of change. And I think that there is something to be said about like the harvest ending. I don't know. I'm just excited to kind of see, like, I don't know, look into that a little bit more. Maybe we'll have some stats for you on the next episode, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I hope you guys had a happy Halloween. And if you have any questions, or if you have a near-death experience tonight or tomorrow, please reach out to us.
As soon as you wake up from your near-death experience, reach out to us. That's the first thing you need to do. Don't text your mom. Don't let anyone know you're okay. Contact Andie and Lexie, Bright Lights Beyond on Instagram, our website. Send us a message, because we should be of your utmost importance.
We probably could help you more.
Have us on speed dial. It doesn't hurt.
I mean, like, pin us in your text messages. Like, what are you doing?
I totally agree. And I just have to say, I'm so excited for this season. We have some really great guests coming up that I think will be really, really interesting discussions. Nothing like we've ever done before on the show. And it's really going to be rooted in time, like Lexie said, which doesn't mean you can't come back and listen to these episodes year round, but it's going to really get you in that festive mood of the holidays, of the end of the year, of all the exciting things happening. So stay tuned for season 4. Can you believe it? Season 4 of Bright Lights Beyond, my second season. I'm so happy to be back. I guess I passed the test from last season. The people demanded me back, and I don't blame them, and I'm happy to be back. So much love to Lexie for inviting me back. Thank you to all the viewers.
I got notes after notes. They said if Andie doesn't doesn't come back, we riot. And I said, she'll be back. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of go on this journey with you guys. And I think that speaking to more people who have had near-death experiences will kind of open our eyes up a little bit and like show us like what really matters. And I feel like we wanted to do this around like holiday season because it's like the time where we're all together. And it's a great way to remember that although we're here right now in the present, life is short. And there is a thin veil. Everything is, I don't know, you guys are living, so you understand what life is, right? That's kind of all I wanted to say. So excited. Hope you guys had a happy Halloween. Andie, let the people know what you were for Halloween.
So for Halloween, I kind of had a theme to my costumes. I was like a circus ringmaster, and Trey, my fiance, was the strong man with, leotard and all. He killed it. And then we also were like these like vintage kind of black and white clowns. Much of that was DIY. Thank you to my wonderful mother who knows her way around a needle and thread and helped me with those outfits. Lexie, what were you?
Well, on Halloween, I was, okay, you guys know the Princess Diaries, right? Like the cover where she's like, wearing the sunglasses and the headphones. So that was cute. But my favorite is that tonight, when you're listening to it tonight, I'm going to be Violent J from the Insane Clown Posse. So it's going to be super fun. It was super fun. I'm like, I don't know. We're blending the realities here. So I'm like, was, is, who knows? Maybe we're in the thin veil. Girl, perhaps we're in the thin veil.
That's literally where we're recording from, the veil. Tell us what you're being for Halloween on Instagram. Comment it on our latest post because we both are big Halloween girls and we want to know what you were, what you did, what your plans were. So please tell us anything, everything, nothing, whatever you like.
Yeah, just comment a period, just a dot, you know what I mean? Just comment, gets our stats up. But anyway, guys, so excited. Looking forward to next episode. Remember that we love you. And as always, live life beyond.